Welcome to the Ladies Kickin Ass podcast, where we raise our voices and honor the badass achievements of women in the service industry. Get ready for empowering conversations, inspiring stories, and a whole lot of ass-kicking energy. Join us as we redefine what it means to be bold, fearless, and unapologetically YOU, babe. This is your platform, your community, and your source of inspiration. So buckle up, get ready to rock and roll, and let's show this world just how much we can accomplish. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin Ass podcast. Welcome back to another episode of Ladies Kickin Ass. I'm so excited to be able to bring to you my guest today. Marina J helps women flourish after narcissistic abuse with a beautiful program that she has put together that I'm going to have her explain to you here throughout the program. But she guides women to uncover the hidden shadows that typical therapy, mindset strategies, and maybe self-care habits that you're doing just don't really address everything at its real core and root. She is a best-selling author, which is incredible. And she also has a podcast that is called Turn Yourself On. If you have not listened to this podcast, it is absolutely incredible. If you have ever been through or are coming out the other side of being in a relationship with any narcissist whatsoever. I've 3 episodes deep in this already, and I could find myself in it so much. So, Marina, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, I can't wait. I love your energy. I think we're just going to have a lot of fun and get deep. So let's go. I'm ready.
Yay! Awesome. So go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, why you decided to go into this kind of work, and what this does for you at your core. Because I truly believe that if you are in this work, this line of work, in coaching, in helping women do things, it is because it is feeding a part of yourself too that you have been able to see recovery, get something from, and you want to share that. Women are so great about that. So give us your backstory.
My backstory is actually about my back. That's where it began. So I used to feel everybody's emotion growing up. I would feel your feelings in my body and I would know what you needed. So I would start to sort of overgive and not accept help, not accept support, but I would support you at the expense of me. And then pretty soon, my spine started to follow that decision. So I would kind of go left to support you, and I would go right to support the person on my right. And pretty soon, my spine's like, well, all right, we're going to follow you. Instead of being straight to support me, we're going to support everybody else. So I actually developed scoliosis at the age of 12, which is a curvature of the spine, which means instead of it being straight, So I ended up wearing a very constrictive back brace for a few years that was incredibly painful and not great, in order to stop it from getting any worse. And I remember telling 30 doctors that were in a room watching me be 13 years old in a little vest and knickers. And I was so incensed. And I said, I'm going to heal this. I am going to heal this myself. And bless them, they thought I was very cute. No one took me seriously. That's fine. And then roll on to a little bit later, and I ended up teaching yoga. And yoga really began my journey of healing. It was incredible, actually. So I opened up my own studio at the age of 24. And then I became a single mom a few years later, which I think is the epitome of overgiving, under-receiving, doing everything on your own. And
Yes.
Then I discovered this coaching. And, my grandmother was a psychotherapist. She'd worked with Carl Jung. My grandfather had worked with Carl Jung in the 1930s. And I didn't know so much about that, but I remember thinking, I need to heal my emotions, because it's actually my emotions that let me down, because I know what's right. But when I'm in front of somebody, I betray myself. When I'm in front of somebody, I say yes instead of no. And I'm anxious all the time, and I don't like that. So I started to study shadow work, and I then became a coach in it. And shadow work, for anybody that is new to it or hasn't heard of it yet, shadow work is you owning everything you don't like about yourself everything you don't like to feel about yourself. And when you do that, you alchemize it, you transform it back into peace, back into the light, back into your power. And you own all the great things about you that maybe you've minimized in the past because you don't want to seem like a big head, or you had to protect yourself against abusive people, and we don't want to be big in front of abusive people. We need to kind of get invisible. And so that's how I began. And because I used the shadow work, I started dissolving really difficult situations that I had in relationships, abusive situations. I started dissolving them really, really quickly. Fast forward to now, I then met the love of my life, who's the father that my daughter couldn't have. And he's amazing. We've been together 16 years. And I started up my company, Marina J, to help powerful women. It's the powerful women I work with. They're the ones that usually get the least support, give the most support, and have actually received the most projection, abuse, and the worst kind of relationships, right? And these women, they know who they're meant to be. And that's my job, is to absolutely get them into being the powerhouses that they are here to be.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that was a lot. I feel like you were describing me when you were saying all of that. I've been so excited to be able to have this conversation with you, because there are so many women in the Ladies Kickin Ass community that are feeling that emotion too right now, because these very bold, big brained, big personality ladies have been through a lot of shit, and they refuse to allow anyone to help them. It's a very difficult place to extend a "let me help you." They're like, got it, because we've learned to rely on nobody but ourselves. I know that's been a big problem for me so much. So I can't wait to be able to dive into this. And can you share your personal journey of kind of what you went through, as far as what it was with the narcissist in your life that made you decide that you want to be able to help women flourish after getting out of these kinds of relationships?
I didn't actually realize I'd had narcissistic abuse until well into my adult life. And when I realized it was somebody that did something really bad, and they're a member of my extended family, and it was absolutely appalling. And I remember hearing about it, and I went into my bedroom and I just let out this really big exhale. I was just like, okay, so now my whole life makes sense. And it was like all this cognitive dissonance left me. And for any of you that don't know what that means, it's basically confusion. It means that your head is hearing somebody say to you, no, that's not what I did, or that's not what, gaslighting you. But your head is saying one thing, your heart's saying another. So your heart might be saying, ow, that's really hurtful that you did or said that. But your brain is overriding it, going, yeah, but it's your whoever, it's your husband, it's your wife,
Yeah.
it's your dad, it's your mom, it's your brother, it's this family or whatever it is, overriding actually your sovereignty, actually what you know to be true. So you can no longer be rooted in truth. So when this person did what they did, it all made sense. And then I went, oh, that's why I pick people who are really harsh. That's why I'm picking people who have no capacity to give to me. That's why I overgive in relationships and underreceive. That's why I don't ask for help. Because when I've asked for help in the past, it's not even that I don't get it. I get sabotaged. It's not that people leave me. I get rejected. I get sabotaged. The very time I need the help is the very time where people leave. And suddenly,
Yeah.
it's like all this cognitive dissonance, all the cloudiness, all the confusion left me. And for the first time, I was like, oh, wow, now I get it. And so that changed everything for me. Once I started to genuinely heal, I vibrated out a lot of these relationships. I call them the non-reciprocal relationships. And by that, I mean, it's just not reciprocated. What you give is not reciprocated back. And I don't mean in a conversation, I mean long term, right? It's all about them. It's never about you. You're always there for them. They're never there for you. You talk, they've already left the conversation. They're not that interested. They're literally with you because of how you make them feel. And so you usually find people that have had narcissistic abuse or been in a lot of one-sided relationships are very self-managed, and they form a very hard shell around them where they're very capable. They're usually holding and carrying a lot. They're amazing women. All of this. And by the way, narcissistic abuse happens to men all the time as well, right? But I specialize predominantly in women. I do coach men as well, but really it's women I'm talking about. And these women, what I usually find with them is they don't really make that much progress in their lives. It's very difficult to live your dreams if you're not supported. You actually can only do so much. And so if we don't learn how to actually recognize the good people for us and be able to trust them, and that takes time, especially when you've been burned so much, we don't actually get the support we need. We can't make the impact we're meant to make on this planet. We can't parent how we want to parent. We can't do what we are born to do because it's only one of us. We're not meant to be carrying for everything and do our dreams. It's actually impossible. So these are the women that I focus on the most because ultimately they're the ones that actually need the most help. It's not the weaker ones. It's not the ones that they're good at receiving. They're going to get the support they need. It's these women. These are the ones almost that nobody sees, that nobody thinks of to ring, because when they think of you, what are they thinking? Oh, she's always all right. Yeah. Oh, she's always right. She's going to be fine. And the reason that you've done that is because you want people to think you're always all right, because you don't trust people anymore, because most people have completely disappointed you. I don't want your help because, quite frankly, it's going to slow me down. And the reason it's going to slow you down is because you're choosing people that have a very small capacity to actually help you. And that's like a little template that forms around you. There's a lot of these, it's like a constellation of issues that I see that form around people after narcissistic abuse. You think you've left the abuser, but now you've got these templates around you that actually restrict your ability to receive. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you're like speechless listening to that. If that's something that resonates with you, I'm sure the listeners are same thing, like, just eyes wide open, taking a look at that. That's something that I noted down, I jotted down in my notes too, was talking about, like you're talking about this template that goes around you. And it's like, it's not that you want that to be there. It is like, that was your coping mechanism to get out of that narcissistic abuse, whether that was a family that you grew up in, which we'll talk about in just a little bit with the childhood trauma of stuff, but even a partner or a spouse or even a friend. People have close friends that they take this shit from all the time. And I was jotting down while you were reading that non-reciprocating relationships is a very incredible way of talking to people. Like, I hear so many times, and I come from a very small town in the States, but like, oh, well, you can't cut these people out of your life because that's your mom. But that's your dad. That's your blood. That's all the time. I don't give a shit who they are. Like, if they are putting you through this kind of stress and trauma, like, you have to make a decision to let that go. And it doesn't have to be ugly, and it doesn't have to be, something that's detrimental. It can be a really positive thing for you. Is that something that when you're doing your coaching, is that the kind of advice that you give to people too when they come from families like that?
Oh my God. People earn the right to be in your inner circle. They earn the right to be in your inner circle. And it's not because of blood, and it's not because of who they are. And if I'm 50, right? I've already spent half a century, and I look at it and I go, well, I've already done half a century. Do I really want to do the second part of my life now in the same way? And you don't owe anybody anything. You don't owe your time. You don't owe your energy. People are not entitled to your energy. Okay. If you've lived like that as your norm, that is going to stop you. That is going to cost you your dreams, your health, your energy. And actually, how many people you can help on this planet? We're all here to do amazing things, right? We're all here to, be the foundation of goodness and all of those good things. So it doesn't matter who it is. And for me personally, if you're in my inner circle, it's because I don't need boundaries with you. If I need boundaries with you, you're already out. In a lovely way, you're in more of my outer circle, and I will hang with you and whatever, but it will be how I want it to be. I'm no longer going to be under the control of any belief system that says, oh, but it's family. Oh, but it's your husband. Oh, but it's your kid. No. Abuse doesn't mind who the body is that it comes in on. And so if you take the body away and you just look at the energy, that's your answer right there. That's your answer right there. Otherwise, what are we loyal to? No.
Yeah. You're not loyal. You need to be loyal to yourself first and foremost of everything. And I think so many women struggle with that, and they put themselves on the back burner because they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, all the while they're hurting their own feelings, So if you see yourself in one of those situations, you have our permission to tell them to go away. It's so important that happens, because my goodness, if you continue to I love your analogy there of like, I've already lived 50 years in this. Do I want to continue with this? I hear women often, and I hear this on podcasts a lot too, when they're like, you just have to set better boundaries with them. If you're constantly trying to figure out what the hell your boundary is with someone, they shouldn't be there.
No,
you don't need to figure out how many bricks high you got to build this fence in order to keep them in your life. If you got to have bricks up in between you, you need to get them out.
100%.
Move somewhere else.
100%. Because the onus then is on you. When people say you have to have better boundaries and all of that, that's exhausting. And I appreciate that for some people, right, you've got shared children and what have you and blah, blah, blah. Absolutely. But here's the thing. The onus shouldn't be on you to be doing all the work. If you're in a relationship where you're the one setting all the boundaries, you're the one doing all the emotional, up leveling, you're the one trying to explain decent behavior, you're the one trying to over explain yourself, all of it. No. And so I look at that and go, it shouldn't take that much effort. You're not hard to love. Love is not, I love you and not me. Love is, I love you and I love me. No one's being sacrificed here. And if you really look at it, I always ask people and I say, imagine you're up at the pearly gates. Imagine you died tomorrow and you're up at the pearly gates and God's like, well, do you want to come in? Some of you are going to go, I'm not ready. Like for me, I'd be like, I'm not ready. I haven't finished. There's so much I want to do. There's so much I haven't finished. It's a life unlived. And that's when you start to go, I need to make some changes here. Because by the time I go upstairs, I want to be good. I'm done. I did the best I could do. I lived the best I could live. Right? We don't owe anybody anything. We've done it enough. We've done it enough. And the thing is, if you look at what you've done, did it work? And chances are it didn't. So we go, okay, we're going to do it differently. We're going to do it differently.
Yes. Don't be afraid to do it differently. I think that's what hangs people up sometimes, is they're scared of what that other side looks like. But
of course.
Having been a person that has definitely, two of us here that have been through narcissistic relationships, I've been through a few of them. The other side is beautiful. You just have to have the courage to do that. That is something, it kind of leads into the next thing. If you find yourself listening to this podcast and you're like, I can relate to a lot of this from my childhood, say that you grew up with narcissistic parents, or you were raised by narcissistic people, or you had a lot of them around you. Episode 29 on Marina's podcast is absolutely incredible, and it's talking about childhood trauma. So I want to talk to you about this for a minute. It was very interesting to me how you said, it really plays a part in the way that we behave and manifest now in the present things that we want in our lives. I just felt like the entire time I'm like, why didn't I ever really get this before? But you put it in such plain way to be able to understand this. But like, if you grew up in this just negative household, you just kind of played small, you kind of would shrink down so that you weren't being noticed, you weren't causing problems, you weren't, because every time I would try to stand up as a kid, even in like an abusive home, it was like you were the one that ended up getting it, whether the anger was directed at you or not. But you would really play small, you would shrink, you would give until you had nothing left to give. And even the procrastination of, like going into having any kind of big conversations, any of that stuff. Talk to us a little bit about how that really, like, is there actually like a physical thing that happens to you when you grow up as a kid in that kind of trauma that continues to linger? And what can you do to get past that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember when I was on my own healing journey and I had this enormous realization that for so many of my clients, if you grew up in a household where you didn't feel emotionally safe, so maybe, you could have had alcoholic parents, you could have had physical abuse, narcissistic abuse, all kinds of abuse, or even just family members or your caregivers that just didn't have any emotional maturity or availability for you. So you felt like you weren't seen, you weren't heard. And maybe if you did speak up, you were going to incur backlash, you were going to incur rejection, you were going to be belittled, you were going to be shamed, whatever it was. So as a child, children are always dreaming. They're always wanting, right? They always want something. They're dreaming of something. They want this, they want that. But if you find that actually your biggest need at that time is to stay safe physically and emotionally, that's what you get really good at manifesting. And you figure out, you know what? I'm going to fly under the radar. I'm going to go invisible. I'm going to be the good child so that I don't elicit a difficult response. And we make these decisions to behave a certain way. So it might have been a good child. You look back at your own childhood and go, who did I become in order to survive? Who did I have to become in order to survive? And so what you find with those sorts of children is that you became invisible. Whenever you were worried or scared for yourself, you just become invisible so that you don't incur somebody else's wrath, anger, violence, hatred, fill in the blank. Other children,
Right.
meanwhile, that are not involved, they don't have that kind of childhood, when they want to manifest something and they want to be the fastest runner, they're just going to practice and be the fastest runner. They're going to have this very strong tunnel vision to create, almost obsessive, which is actually what we want as adults. As adults, we want to be able to see our vision, right? For our families, for our businesses, for our life's purpose, for whatever we want to achieve, and absolutely go for it completely, even if the outside world is showing us doubt, is showing us whatever the feedback is. If we know in our hearts that's what we want to be able to keep going. What I see with children that have had these sorts of environments where they're not emotionally safe is as they grow up and they then leave these families, for them, every time they're worried about money, every time they're stressed about a relationship, every time their business isn't going well, every time they're worried about something at work or something that feels like it's going to take you out, instead of manifesting and going for it and seeing your vision and blah, 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 and taking all the action, they just fly under the radar. They stop, they'll go quiet, they'll contract, they don't want to be seen, they don't want to be heard, they'll withdraw. And because for them, they're following that template of, in order to stay safe in this scary environment, I need to become invisible, which is the last thing you want. You actually want to be visible. You want to be seen. You want to be taking action, and you want support. So this is why I feel that children of narcissistic abuse usually need the most support in becoming very powerful manifestors, because they powerfully manifested safety. Their only thing was, I need to stay safe. And they're still doing it now. But right now, there's no narcissists around you, right? Or if there is, you're an adult now. You've got a lot more control over your life and how that can look. And so we don't need that anymore. So we've got to undo it. So the way we undo it, I've coined it as the narcissistic template. That's what I call this, and any issue that you have after narcissistic abuse, I call it the narcissistic template. What we do is we need to release that narcissistic template so that you can receive, you can be who you actually are, which is really powerful, straight like an arrow, going for what you want, having relationships, having a life that turns you on, being turned on by your own energy, and really becoming that woman that you were born to be. And so we step out of that template, and I call it then stepping into the goddess template, which is, instead of you being treated like a narcissist, once you've walked away, if you're still then treating yourself like a narcissist, we don't want that. We want you treating yourself like a goddess. And I'm not religious at all, but I would say that's like treating yourself as God would treat you, or treating you like the universe would treat you, or treating you like your spirit team, your angels would actually want to treat you, because that's how you deserve to live. And that is a process that we go through. And it absolutely, once you get it, you fly. But it's important. Otherwise, you think it's all normal, and it's not. It's just who you've had to become to survive, you know? Yeah.
Yes. The looking for safety, I think, is something that I have had conversations with other women, that have been through this. And it is like, you can't shake that almost survival thing of need to find safety. Like, in your brain, you're always thinking, how can I associate safety to this? Whether it's financially, whether it's with your business, whether it's with a new relationship, your kids, like, where can I find safety around this? And as grown women, I love that you said, we have so much more control. And I think a lot of times we forget how much control we really do have in changing the narrative in our own minds of saying, I need to seek safety when you can provide the safety yourself. So really, like, stepping in and becoming that big, bold woman that you are, embrace that, because it can help you get through so much of this. This is so good. And that just kind of spills into, like, I think it's really fascinating that even as a boss or an owner of a team of employees, that you'll still be shrinking yourself and, like, giving away the farm to your employees to keep everybody happy. Like, you're the peacemaker. You can be a CEO of a business and still try to be the peacemaker in everything. And those two things do not coincide with each other. This is something I have struggled with very, very much. So I remember we were putting our placards up on our doors, and I had made everybody's thing with their title on it. And I went to hang mine up on the door that said CEO on it, because I own a septic and wastewater construction business. And I went to hang it up on the door, and I stood back and I went up to take it off because it made me feel so uncomfortable to put my title on the door. And I think there's so many women that don't step into the incredible places they've put themselves at, because they're still shrinking, playing small. They don't want to seem braggadocious or whatever words you want to put in there, big-headed or things. But we really need to learn to celebrate all of those things that we have accomplished. So talk to me about these women that you work with. Like, how do they step into being that badass boss babe that they truly are, but are shrinking themselves into, almost non-existence because they're afraid of what everybody else is thinking.
Absolutely. The first stage is to make it safe for yourself to receive. And that is safe for you to receive attention, safe for you to be seen, safe for you to stand out, safe for you to be celebrated, safe for you to receive money, safe for you to receive people into your world who want to support you and love you and want to see you win. Because if
Yeah.
you've been around, this kind of abuse or even just relationships that are just a huge mismatch and the person just doesn't really care about you, it isn't safe to be seen. It isn't safe because every time you win, you get attacked. You'll get verbally attacked, right? Or it could be physically attacked. Or every time you do something great, you get interrupted all the time. People that have had a lot of narcissistic abuse talk about the constant interruptions, the constant energy of the person now wants the attention. They don't want you to shine. Birthdays, Christmases, the holidays, the minute you shine or the minute it's about you, you get smashed back down. So we've got this response. So it's very important to do the internal work. And so we can say it, we can go, okay, I want to be safe to receive, but how do I do that? And it's really important to do I call it the subconscious healing. Oh, I love your cup. Super mum. Yeah. Love it.
Every one of my coffee mugs are from some holiday somewhere.
So the first stage of making it safe to receive is to do the subconscious healing work. And that's where we go down and we actually shift it subconsciously. So then you don't have to think it. You don't have to go, right, I'm going to make it safe to receive. So for example, what you had where, the CEO plaque on your door, you're more than happy for everybody else. And for you, it's like a sharp intake of breath of like, what's going to happen if I do this? What am I going to attract? What am I going to incur? Because for you in the past, attention wasn't nice. It was nasty. It comes with the nastiness, right? So are your boundaries going to be strong enough? Are you going to be strong enough? Are you going to be robust enough? Or are you going to be obliterated? And so we work subconsciously. So we would do, like for you, for example, we would do a subconscious process. It would take 20 minutes and then you're done. You're sorted. And you would then have that up. You'd feel totally safe and cool in the gang. So we want to speed it up. We want to speed it up because otherwise it can take a long time. I don't know about you. I don't have 10 or 20 years to get where I want to go to. I want to get there now. So the first stage of receiving is to want, is to allow yourself to want beyond the safety. What do you want? Because as soon as you start wanting, you're going to naturally allow yourself to start receiving. And what I find with a lot of women that have been here, they want only when they're in crisis. And when they're not in crisis, they go fuzzy. And if they start to work on it, it's like a sort of very unfit muscle in their body. They're not very good at it and they can't maintain it. They can't stay passionate about things that are just for them for very long because they're not used to holding it. For them, it's still safety that's the most important thing. Safety, everything else. So start wanting, Yeah.
So good. So good. So how do you think if, let's just say there is somebody that is resonating with this whole conversation that we are talking about today, and they're like, holy shit, I got to get myself together and out of they can see themselves living in these relationships.
Yeah.
I know there can be a lot of fear around that, depending upon who it is that you are around. But what are kind of some of the steps or just some positive thoughts that we can send to that person today to help lift them up and get them going in a positive direction?
Absolutely. When you are in these circumstances or you are still in relationships that are not great, or maybe you're in a workplace that you just feel isn't great. First thing I always say, and the key to this really is to feel how people affect you without overriding it. If you just stay with that and go, actually, I don't feel safe around this person. I don't feel emotionally safe around this person. or I always feel anxious when I'm around this person, or whatever it is, if you feel how they affect you and you don't make excuses for them and you don't
Mhm.
override them, you don't go, oh, well, he's having a tough time right now. No, I have tough times. I'm not going to get abusive, right? I'm not going to
Sure.
start calling you name or whatever, and nor would you, right? So the first thing to do is if you just stayed with how people affected you and you didn't override it with positive thinking, which I'm not a fan of, just got to be honest, right? Because I just think that doesn't really shift
Mhm.
anything. It just covers up how you really feel. When you are very honest, actually, about how you feel, and sometimes we can't put our finger on why. Sometimes we don't know why. We just go, this doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. When I walk away, I always feel tired. I never feel that great. I always feel a bit, I don't know. When we're really honest with how we feel and we stay there, we will always make the right decision for ourselves. And if you can
Mhm.
then start to take action, and it might just be little baby steps that you feel safe to do, start there. Because it's not about them and what they're needing or what they're doing or what they're not doing. The power doesn't sit with them. The power sits with you. It always
Yeah.
sits with you. And so important to begin just hearing how you feel. If you could hear yourself and stay connected to that, you will begin to move out into the way that you've always meant to. Wherever it is that you're meant to be, you will start to move out. You will leave that behind. And I always say, we only have to do our half and the universe will meet us. The universe is always going to meet the half, but we have to take action. We have to start. And you will have
Mhm.
angels that you never even knew existed that will start to come in. It might be somebody at the store. It might be somebody at the school. It might be somebody in the office that you've never seen before, because you've begun honoring yourself in just small ways. Maybe no one's noticed, but so then the outside world will start to give you the support to honor you as well.
That's beautiful. So good. So good. So tell us what you have going on next if someone is interested in getting to know more about you, how they can work with you. This has been absolutely impactful on me today, and I'm sure the listeners feel the same way. So, how can we find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at my website, marinaj.net. That's marinaj.net. And on there, you'll see I have a Facebook group called Release the
Mhm.
Narcissistic Template. And I have free training in there that I do each month. And I put in there free resources. You can get started there. I also have my book, Turn Yourself On, which is about turning your power on, your ability to heal whatever is going on. And there's some sensual stuff in there and some sexual stuff in there, some yummy stuff.
Mhm.
Um, it's really about rebuilding yourself, into this power that
Yeah.
you are. And I have lots of courses that people can join. I work with people individually. I also have a year-long program called Flourish, which is to flourish after narcissistic abuse. It takes about a year. It just takes a year. It just does. It's full on. And Flourish is the emotional piece, actually healing yourself, using shadow work to actually heal and clear. So you just dissolve what's going on. I've used this with people that are in or out of court. I've used this with people that have got issues. It doesn't matter how big the issue is. It's never about what's happening. It's always about how you are with it. You can heal and transform anything because the power is actually with you. So we do that. We
Yeah.
release the narcissistic template from your life, from your business, so you can show up and be who you actually are. And so you stop pouring your energy into your business and getting very little back. We also do
Mhm.
the energetic piece. It's the energy piece and it's the practical piece as well. It's like, how do you show up? And we get you used to being seen, having attention, being celebrated, because I want you shining. There's so many women out there that are in positions of power or they are in positions of great responsibility. And we need you feeling fabulous, absolutely fabulous. So it's what we need to flourish. And For me personally, I can't do it without support. I used to, oh God, I've tried to do it without support. Don't work.
Me
It's so
too.
going. I know. It's like, no. So that's what I have got going on.
That is incredible. Well, I'm looking forward to joining the Facebook group and even just learning more about the stuff that you're working on. I think there's so many women that work in this home service industry, which is the audience of a lot of the listeners here, that work very much in a masculine world. And many of us, I know I struggle with, like, I am in this masculine mode all day long. I work with a bunch of guys in the wastewater division. There's like customers, like everything, just leading this business. You tend to walk into that masculinity. And then I come home and my husband doesn't like me in that very much because I'm really good at that side of things. But he doesn't want a masculine wife. He wants his feminine wife when you come here. So there's really a lot of shift that happens with that in the world of people. I think that if you have been through, and correct me if I'm wrong, in narcissistic relationships, you tend to carry that and wear that masculine mask more than your feminine mask. Or your feminine face, being able to come into that.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about how you see that manifest itself in the workplace and maybe what we can do to kind of tune in and hone into our femininity so that we can make a difference in the workplace that's different than trying to run with all these dudes.
Oh my goddess. Yes. I've coached many women that are in all male environments, banking, construction, okay, all, accounting, all that sort of world. And it's like we are in a very masculine world as well. It's still more masculine than it is feminine. And so what we've learned is that we should prioritize being straightforward in our communication, no emotion, can do attitude, winner, do it quickly, be productive. I don't know about you. Most women I know don't like getting up early and doing things early. Most women I know don't like even being on time is a bit of a stress if we're really honest, and we're always rushing around, right? And the reason is that a lot of women are not living to that feminine power that they have in there. So, for example, for a guy, most men love getting up early. But you think about men, when does their testosterone peak? 6 a.m., 9 a.m. I think it's 9 a.m., right? When do most jobs start? Not construction, but when do most office jobs start? 9 a.m. So men are like ready to rock and roll. For most women, we don't peak until the evening, actually, unless we've had I'm not talking about we've had a day of doing a lot. But for most women, we actually in the evening want to be around other women, maybe around a fire, talking, dancing, having a laugh, talking. We don't want to be watching TV so much. We actually want to be with each other. And for most women, we actually want to go out at night. Most guys I know don't want to go out at night. Their time's in the morning. Our time's in the evening. So I actually don't start with my clients until at least 11 a.m. I don't really begin until 11 a.m. And to be honest with you, not really properly until 12 o'clock. So most people I know, for women, we are not linear. We have cycles. We are emotional. And we're meant to be, because actually our power and our magnetic selves sit in the feminine. Without us feeling feminine and being in our feminine energy, we're not magnetic. We can't receive easily. Our relationships are going to feel just a bit hit and miss, right? And your beautiful husband knows that. But the question then becomes, okay, I know that, but how do I become it? How can I da 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 da? So when you work in a masculine environment, and this is what I've coached a number of women in this, there's actually more room for you to be feminine than you realize. And men will really respond to it. And I'm not talking about flirting. I'm not talking about sexual energy. I'm talking about actually allowing yourself to be a bit softer. And one of the ways we can do that is to actually ask for help when we need it. Because in my experience, the guys will ask for help, the women won't. And the women usually have to be twice as good as all the guys around her. But in my experience, if you start asking guys, and my book actually has in it how to ask for what you want, because it's specific 3 steps honed over years of just hearing all my clients go, he doesn't help me and blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's actually you have to know how to ask. When you do that, you start to get a softer response and you start to stand out. You won't stand out. You won't get promotions in a company as easily if you're still trying to be a guy. The clients I have actually turn up. So I'll give you a story around that, a quick story around that. I had a client who had worked in a very high level in the banking industry, a company we all know, and she left to have her children. And then she was getting work from them and she was working at home. And she was getting all the dregs. She was getting like the last minute stuff, the stuff they couldn't be bothered to do. She was at a high level and they were giving all this stuff. Anyway, she rocked up to this big meeting and it was going to be all men. I think it was like 30 or so men. She was the only woman. And I said, what are you going to wear? She's like, well, I'm just going to wear my suit. And I went, nope, you're going to wear your most beautiful dress. And she went, Marina, I can't do that. No, you don't understand. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we talked and talked. She rocked up in her most amazing dress. And I'd coached her on actually just exuding her femininity completely and utterly. And the big boss that had flown in from Hong Kong said to her, wow, where are you? We haven't seen you in years. She said, oh no, I've been working at home. And he said, but are we utilizing you? What are we doing with you? And she said, look, I've got to go up and do a talk right now. We'll chat afterwards. And before she said, Marina, I need to read all of these very masculine procedures and books. And I don't want to have to do that. I can't remember it all. I said, you don't have to. You go in there and place your strengths. Do that and see what happens. She did it. Yeah. The guy comes back to her and he's like, we need you. He said, you are a breath of fresh air. And he went ahead and gave her an unprecedented 7-year contract, earning 3 times what she was earning. She then started flying around the country, then with a nanny because she could afford a nanny. And the company took her from there to there. And she said to me, I know if I'd rocked up the old me, kind of like dropping down to where all the guys are, not the guys are under us, but being a guy, it wouldn't have worked. Yeah. Guys don't want us to be guys. They want to be the guys, right? We need to be the women in the workplace. It doesn't matter how masculine it is. You get to be you. Otherwise, when are you ever going to be you? But you've got to lead it. It can't be a guy. You've got to lead it. Guys know that it's not right. They're so beautiful. They know it's not right, but they don't know how to be. I've been around a lot of builders in my life, right? My husband's in construction and all of that. I'm very me. I'm very feminine. And I always get what I want. I always get treated with respect. We have a beautiful relationship because I'm not trying to be them. I have strengths they'll never have. They'll have strengths I'll never have. We can still do the same job, but we're going to do it differently. And I'm going to own that. And I'm going to shine that out. And I'm not going to apologize for anything.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Own that, ladies. Thank you for that story. That was beautiful. Because I think that that's something that we're like, we have to be more like them so we can get the respect, so we can get the money, so we can get and we're really thinking about that totally backwards. So that was a beautiful thing to kind of bring everything together here. I appreciate you so much and giving all of your wisdom, and just, you have a beautiful spirit about you that I just have been so blessed to be able to talk to you today. So I just want to, in closing, I always ask everyone the same question because I am writing a book, and my book is about everyday women that are out there kicking ass. That is the whole point of this community and this podcast, is really shining the light on women that, you know, they're not the celebrities. They're not in these big glamorous jobs and doing all of these glamorous things, but they're really helping shape who women are today and our future generations that are coming up. So when I tell people that I have a podcast by the name of Ladies Kickin Ass, many people are like, oh, really? Tell me more. You know, I think it's something that we all, as achievers, really resonate with, because we all want to be a lady that's kicking ass. So if I were to ask you that question, Marina, what does the phrase ladies kicking ass mean to you, and how do you embrace that daily?
It actually is going to be a soft response. It's going to be, I think, you kick ass. That's in my accent, right? It's a little bit different in the English accent. I think, you kick
Love it.
ass. You kick ass when you are fully expressed as who you are. If you can be the fullest expression of who you are, wherever you are, you will also always get the best response, and you'll always get the highest timeline of wherever you are. To me, it's about staying connected to who you are and not leaving yourself to please anybody or perform in front of anybody or manage somebody's view of you. It's actually about you being brave enough. Like, can you be the fullest expression of yourself? Only when you feel emotionally safe. But sometimes we can just be that anyway, actually. And when you are, you're going to wear the colors that turn you on. You're going to say the things that turn you on. You're not going to say the stuff that turns you off. And you're going to treat yourself, honestly, like the goddess you were born to be. And that, to me, in my very British accent, is kicking ass.
I love it. I love it so much. This has been such a beautiful conversation and so completely different and very much needed for my listeners. A lot of the times our topics are like, gung ho, let's go, let's get all this stuff done and slay the dragons. But for once, really tap into that and see what you can do. I'm going to challenge myself and everyone that's listening to this to really observe your behaviors in the workplace, with your relationship with your significant other, even with your children too. Because I think as I was a single mom for a lot of years too, that you start taking on that masculine role even around your children too. So really paying attention to who you are and stepping into that femininity more often than you have been is something I would love to challenge everybody with, and just see what happens from that. Like, I think there's beautiful things that are out there waiting for us when we really step into who we actually are. And this is a beautiful way to start going in that direction. So thank you so much, Marina. This has been a pleasure.
You're amazing. I think for everyone that knows you, you are a center point of really good things happening. Like, I think you're utterly amazing. When I speak, there's certain people I speak to, and you've just got it. You absolutely, like, your book's going to be amazing. So please let me know when your book comes out as well. I'd love to read it. It's you're I can see you, like, you're like the linchpin, you're like the center for so many people. You're really powerful, and yeah, very much looking forward to keeping in contact with you, actually, and really seeing where you go, because you're amazing. Yeah, I don't say that lightly. I
Thank
don't
you.
often say that. So
Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to staying connected with you too, because you're going to help me become this better person too with all of your advice, because I really appreciated this today. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thanks for being part of the Ladies Kickin Ass community. Cheers to all you badass women out there. Keep rocking your power, igniting your fire, and making waves in the service industry. If you loved today's episode, please do me a quick favor. Take a screenshot, post it, and tag us at Ladies Kickin Ass. Be sure to include the link to your favorite episode. Your support in spreading the word means the world to us as we aim to empower even more women. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more kick-ass episodes. And don't forget, a 5-star review is the ultimate high five. Connect with us on social media. All the links are in the show notes. Thank you for being part of our tribe. Now go kick some serious ass, lady. Hey, ladies, have you ever considered starting your own podcast? Or hell, maybe you already have one, but you're looking for someone awesome to collaborate with, or maybe get some mentorship or some questions answered as to how people are doing certain things on their podcasts? Well, I'd love to introduce you to my friend Joanne Bolt and her incredible new podcast, Her Network. Ladies Kickin Ass is part of this network, and I would love to invite you to come on over, join the party. If you haven't started a podcast yet, great, we'll help you get started. If you have a podcast and you want to make it better, great, come join the party. If you're looking for guests, collaborations, just how-tos to do anything, or you just really want to be part of an awesome chick clique of women that are doing badass things, come over, join us at the podcast Her Network with my friend Joanne Bolt. Open up the show notes. There is a link in there to get any and all information that you might need about this incredible opportunity.